I call it the mandemic. It's a massive decline in male fertility. Anytime the testes get 2 degrees too warm, it stops spermatogenesis. You've got thousands of guys commenting their blood test results before and after icing, and it literally increases testosterone. I recommend that to all guys.
Hey friends, before we get into this episode, I am going to ask for your help. We are on a mission to hit 4,000 subscribers in the next 30 days. I've got a stat here. 97% of you aren't actually subscribed. That's crazy. So for every follow, like, share, subscribe, that all really helps us to continue to get the guests that you want. So can you please join me in becoming one of the 4K crew? That would help me and I would love it so much. Going to say it again. I'm so excited to be here. But you know what? That's because we always get the best guests. And so I do get very excited.
Yeah, awesome. No, I'm glad to be here and looking forward to having a fun chat.
Let's start with your favorite thing to talk about. Biohacking, supplementation, like there's a big list.
Yeah, we can probably focus on the biohacking
What's
side.
your favorite? That's your favorite?
Yeah. Supplements and biohacking is sort of like the area that I've...
And how did you find yourself here?
My childhood dream was to become a professional soccer player. So when I was a young boy, obviously played for all the different clubs in...
Is that a lot of kids' childhood dreams?
I think so.
I feel like it is.
And it's also like until you go over there and realize how good they are,
then
you come back and be like, okay, I don't think this is the career for me. At the age of 16, I went over to represent Melbourne and played in Hungary in Budapest and realized these guys basically all they ever do is just eat, sleep, breathe soccer. And then I came back and I'm like, I think I'm probably better off like building up my expertise in a different area. And that's when I fell in love with my dad's a pharmacist, worked in the pharmacy, got experience learning about vitamins, different supplements. And I'm like, hang on a sec. I think I love this naturopathy side of things, which...
How did your dad feel about that?
Funnily enough, he was actually pretty open-minded to it. He wasn't like your typical pharmacist that was very anti, herbal medicine and that sort of stuff. He was very open-minded, excited to sort of look into that. Pretty early on, I actually got him off his reflux medications that he'd been on for 20 years with the bitter herbs, artichoke, gentian root, a few things like that, and just solved his long-standing digestive issues, which of course he passed down to me. I had reflux when I was younger, pretty bad. I was put on Nexium from a young age, and that just obviously led to all these deficiencies. And then from there, I started studying naturopathy, and I fell in love with that whole field. I got involved in Australia's very first Nootropics startup, and I was actually appointed to be the formulator for the first supplement that they launched. And that's when I fell in love with L-theanine, magnesium, lemon balm, different adaptogens. And here we are today. I'm just pioneering, sort of educating in the health space.
I love that your dad's open-minded, and I think it's very interesting. If you look at a lot of the leading experts, they appreciate the integration of herbal medicine, and just the advances that we're making and all the things that we're learning.
Yeah. I'm definitely, I do agree there's a time and place for both. If I have to refer on to a doctor, I'll always do that. But I just think that there's so much that we can do from a lifestyle, nutrition, supplementation perspective that can dramatically improve, the state of health of the population.
I think it's interesting also. It's unfortunately the system is disconnected though in so many instances. You'll have patients come and say, why does my doctor tell me not to take herbal medicine that I have to take? And a lot of patients really feel cornered.
Yeah.
And it's hard to have that conversation sometimes because it's not I don't think it should necessarily be a this or that. But I don't know how we continue to shorten that gap where we work together. And I actually think it's up to the patient to start to learn and advocate for themselves because, again, like you said, there's a place for everything. It's just the right place, right time, really.
Absolutely. One of my missions is to educate. Here's the pros and the cons as well of certain supplements. So oftentimes I think the reason why I gained a lot of credibility and traction and trust is because when I'm talking about different supplements, I'm not always just here's all the benefits and not mentioning potential drawbacks like, some of them might make you more sleepy. Some of them might interact with GABA. Some of them interact with serotonin, just highlighting small offshoots about different supplements that people need to be aware of that people just don't really talk about.
Well, that's actually interesting as well because it's often not spoken about. And any plant-based medicine or even supplementation has a strong effect.
Yeah.
Right? So it, of course, can have unwanted effects just like it can have wanted effects. And this is why I think it's really important to be able to consult with someone who knows how to integrate things as well, because I don't know about you, but, well, I do know about you. We get taught the integration and interactions between, you know, various medications, but not necessarily the other way around, which is why I think a lot of people are met with resistance going, I don't know, so just don't take something that I don't know about, which that's why, you know, you really do need to be speaking to the right people and do your research yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to basically look at supplements as like, they're still drugs per se. They're still, a lot of them are still psychoactive. A lot of them can still modulate neurotransmitters. They can manipulate cortisol, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. Like, just because they're natural doesn't mean that they're, you know, they're harmless.
Yeah.
They need to be used, you know, strategically and also based upon blood test results as well. I'm sure you've
so
been
important.
honing on that for years as well.
I mean, I think, yes, it is important to get the big picture of things. And I think, unfortunately, for too long, that hasn't happened. So there's a lot of people that are very confused. And that's why it's up to us to have these conversations and educate people and help them. And it's about asking a lot of questions too at the end of the day, I find, for patients. I'm like, just keep asking why.
Yeah.
Just keep asking. You've got something, but why? Like, how do we really get to the root cause? I know you mentioned nootropics before.
Yep.
Let's talk about that. For someone that doesn't understand or know, look at you. You're like, yep, all right, I'm going to have this conversation. I'm going to get my legs up on the table.
First of all, nootropics is basically a category of supplements. It can be either natural or synthetic that are designed to improve cognition, right? That can be memory performance. It can be focus, concentration, alertness, anything that can help with cognitive function. Now, whenever I looked into that, I was always like, okay, how can I sort of build out a protocol, a nootropic stack that's tailored to my neurology, to my biochemistry? And I fell in love with this principle. It's sort of like a term that I coined called cosmetic neurology, which was like all about how can we manipulate and shift and modulate different neurotransmitters to suit our exact, like whatever we're looking to achieve. So for example, if I need to stay really focused, let's say I was studying for an exam or, you know, an assessment for university, I knew that I had to increase acetylcholine. I needed to increase dopamine so I could stay, you know, focused. I needed to provide a little bit of GABA to help, you know, keep me calm and not anxious. The way I look at it is we can mold the brain in a way that's suitable for a certain activity or task. And I just fell in love with that principle of being able to take control of your, you know, your neurotransmitters. And that whole space of nootropics has slowly evolved. I would say America is still like 5-10 years ahead of us. In Australia,
I go to conferences and there's always like sachets that we add to our coffee or whatever. I never feel like I have brain fog when I'm there, but when I look back, I'm like, yeah, you weren't thinking straight. Anything that can help, because even travel can really like mess with how your cognitive function and that brain fog. But I think a lot of women, especially as they get older, can really identify with feeling like, you know, something's not quite right. I can't think straight anymore.
And a lot of that would be coming back to their hormonal adjustments. You would know all about progesterone impacting GABA, estrogen affecting serotonin and dopamine. But that whole nootropic space it's exciting. What I really love about it is that I feel like my ultimate legacy and my ultimate mission in this space is to pioneer and release new ingredients to the market. Like that's what I truly do believe, Nat, that's like my calling and my desire is to like release novel and unique ingredients to the market that, you know, everyone's talking about L-theanine. Like a lot of people know about rhodiola. Now it's my turn to hunt down like this, like a miracle molecule, basically.
Love that. So in that vein, what are 3 ingredients maybe or that you wish people knew more about or you want to bring light to?
Yeah, so the first one is a herbal extract from Brazil. And if you go to Brazil or South America and you ask anyone about this herb, it's called Catuaba. All of them will know exactly what you're looking for. You're basically looking for an aphrodisiac, and you're looking for something to put you in a good mood, right? Like as an antidepressant. The reason why I'm so excited about Catuaba is because I actually acquired it. I got my hands on some like 6 or 7 years ago from a shaman website. Like I basically sourced.
What could
like,
go wrong?
Yeah.
I love this. Yes.
I sourced like this Catuaba bark. It was ground up. They also had the option of just getting the bark so you can make a tea out of it. And it wasn't being sold anywhere online apart from just like a few websites. It wasn't really well known. I had to go back into like ancient texts and look back at like what was it used for historically.
What made you even be drawn to it in the first place?
I loved experimenting.
Yeah, right.
I just
okay.
loved,
Fair.
I just loved exploring. Came across Catuaba and I'm like, okay, this looks like an interesting herb. It's being used as like an adaptogen. It's like an aphrodisiac. It's a good mood booster. It works on the dopamine system. It makes rats very happy. And I'm like, okay, I've got to get my hands.
I want what the rats are having.
And then I basically realized that this particular herb, when I first used it, when I first had my very first dosage, was about 500 milligrams of the actual dried powder. It felt like it made me more social, more talkative, just more upbeat, more excited, a bit more like giddy sort of personality, a bit more like carefree, not as like serious and intense, because I find myself as an entrepreneur, I get very serious and very like rigid. Catuaba sort of opened that up. It enabled me to be a bit more social, a bit more sarcastic. And then I gave it to my family. I gave it to my dad. I gave it to my mum. I gave it to my brother. And all of them were having a similar sort of response. And I'm like, I think Catuaba is a really powerful herb that no one really knows about apart from the Brazilians, because the Brazilians know how to party. They know what they're doing. And that's a particular herb that I actually decided to pay close attention to over the years. But unfortunately, sourcing high quality Catuaba is very difficult because a lot of Catuaba products are actually fake. And I'm sure you know this about the supplement industry. It's like a lot of different herbs can be faked on Amazon, not so much iHerb, but Amazon in particular. And that was actually the very first product that I actually released as part of my new brand, my new supplement brand that I launched called In Before. So because I had such a profound effect from Catuaba and I saw no one else really selling high quality Catuaba, it took us 9 months to find legitimate. We had to get it sent off for third party lab testing. And we finally found a supplier in Brazil that is legitimate Catuaba bark. And now we're pretty much selling it to the US market.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right, that's one.
Number 2, I would say probably lesser known is taurine. Now, I'll bring that up because people will see it in Red Bull and energy drinks, but supplementing with about 3 grams of taurine per day can have a very potent anti-anxiety effect. Like it can obviously reduce glutamate, increase GABA, puts people in a bit more of a calmer mood. And subjectively, I've noticed that when I take taurine, my HRV goes up. So my parasympathetic tone is improved. I feel like I'm just less on edge during the day. And really, I haven't sort of seen any major side effects from long-term usage. In fact, taurine is associated with longer lifespan in animal studies. So you could sort of call it like a longevity amino acid. You could put in a similar categories like glycine as well. So that's like definitely another pretty cool ingredient for your audience to check out. And then thirdly, I would like to give special mention to another ingredient called uridine. Have you heard of uridine?
No, I don't think I have.
So uridine is an ingredient that's actually found within broccoli and brewer's yeast and also breast milk. Like it's
just those 3?
There's a few other ones as well.
Okay.
Clearly it's important because it's found in breast milk, right?
Right.
It helps with neural development and it actually increases neurogenesis in the brain. Now, if older adults start noticing that their memory's declining, Uridine can do an amazing job at restoring memory performance, particularly in early onset like Alzheimer's disease. That's what it's well studied for. And it works synergistically, like very well with omega-3s. So if somebody's listening to this podcast, probably taking omega-3 supplements, high dosages, you probably prescribed it or you probably take it.
I take it.
Combining 150 milligrams of Uridine into that stack, you'll notice a huge improvement in like memory performance. And also like it helps with increasing dopamine receptor. It upregulates dopamine receptors, which is extremely important for modern day society.
Love that. What's your stack look like?
Oh, geez.
Depends which way the wind's blowing.
Exactly. It depends what's on for the day.
If you're a female, it'll be even worse. Let me tell you right now, because
imagine.
you'd be like,
Cyclical.
right, cycle day 21. Yeah.
Luckily, I don't have to
factor that in.
Yeah, that
well,
would
I
be
do.
hard.
But I'm interested to hear.
It really depends on what's on my schedule. So like for me.
Tell me about today.
Today, all right. So because I had a couple of consultations this morning and I've also been to the gym and been in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber because I got one upstairs in my apartment. I've had lactoferrin, which is important for immune health, just general iron absorption, things like that. Also reduces endotoxin, which is a gram-negative bacteria. I've had 6 grams of inositol. It sounds like a lot, but the studies go up to like 18 grams. It's completely safe. I've had taurine, I've had phenylalanine, and I've had Catuaba, and I've also had Tudka as well, which is a liver protective supplement. Mm-hmm. That's what I had today. The day's not over yet. There'll probably be 4 or 5 other ones when I go back this afternoon, but I do regular blood work just to make sure. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I'm taking is actually protecting the liver, protecting the kidneys, helping with blood sugar control. And I've also had a little bit of like cacao as well, dark chocolate.
I'm assuming that, yes, that's been perfected over time.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I feel like my brain changes depending upon my environment quite a lot. So like if I'm around people that are really exciting, I don't need as many like dopamine releasing agents sort of thing.
So the boring people, you're like, okay, who's on my list today? You're boring. Yeah. Right.
Increase the dose. It depends on, if I've got Mondays are my big filming day, so I try and film like 5 YouTube videos on the one day on the Mondays. And that day I'll take things that help with like blood flow, circulation, and also verbal fluency as well. So I find that Uridine that I mentioned before changed the game in terms of like being able to articulate yourself and like for verbal fluency. That was a big one for me.
What's more important, working out or taking your supplements?
I think they're both.
You had to choose one.
I get a really pronounced nootropic effect from training really hard, particularly training legs. Like I feel, even though some people feel like depleted.
I trained legs today too. Did you train legs today?
Yesterday. Yesterday. You can just feel your hormones. You just feel, I don't know, the 6 to 8 hours following that. Personally, I know it's increasing testosterone. That's very obvious. But in terms of like they say that insulin resistance starts in the legs. I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's like
we get women to sometimes do squats.
Yeah.
Like just wall squats if they can't. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And as part of that as well is like you've heard about like taking a 10 to 15 minute walk after a meal to lower blood sugar. Well, I'd like to mention that if people can't do a walk after a meal, have you heard about the soleus push-ups?
Yes.
If anyone's listening to this, they can't do a walk after a meal. If they are sitting at a table, obviously they're sitting at a dinner table and they want to actually lower their blood sugar without getting up off the table, just under the table, do some sneaky little calf raises, and it actually will lower your blood sugar levels pretty dramatically. You have to do it for about 10 to 15 minutes. It's quite a long time, but if you do it, it's going to help.
So good. I noticed really changing up my workouts and getting a trainer and getting someone to actually put eyes on it for the majority of this year so far. Because last year, my aura, I could see what was happening with my cycles and what was happening with my temps, and didn't look like I was ovulating. It just looked like I was kind of, even though I was getting a cycle, it was all very much just very meh. It was all kind of just at the line. The only thing really, well, I have changed quite a lot of things, but the thing that's moved the needle the most is the high intensity or training, just training at a higher intensity has shifted things back into very clear below the line, above the line.
Is that high intensity weight training?
Mm.
And that's like where you're
not high intensity, well, training more so to exhaustion.
Oh, till failure.
Yeah. Mostly, but just being pushed a lot harder than what I was before. Like I was still training before.
Yeah.
But not like this.
Now you're like
remarkable difference.
Like
your
HRV?
Yes, everything. But
readiness?
If I showed you, I'll show you after.
That's cool.
I need to show everybody, really, don't I?
Yeah.
But it's been so interesting that has moved the needle the most.
Yeah. Like Dr. Rhonda Patrick talks about.
Yeah, right.
She talks about that as well. Like
Stacey Sims too. That's around the same time I did listen to her podcast on Diary of CEO.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh my goodness, this is really interesting. I was just sort of switching things.
Mm.
But I know that things are different as we get older.
Mm.
And it's a fair commitment to what you actually need to do to hack it, but you can hack it. Like it's
for sure.
like
I've seen some crazy data on just 2 30-second sprints on the bike twice a week. 2 30-second bouts twice a week can reduce fasting blood sugar like I don't know, it's like 19%.
Wow.
Just from 2 30-second maximum efforts, which is like what's that? 2 minutes of your week?
Yes, right.
If you think about it, what happens is you're tricking your body into mobilizing a lot of glycogen. So it actually tricks the body, thinks that it's going to actually be performing that for a longer period of time. So it overestimates how much energy you need.
Right.
It sort of tricks the body. It's like,
Got you.
oh, I need I'm going to run from a tiger or running from a lion. And so it activates these systems that are usually most people barely get off their desk.
And if you're not used to doing that and then you started doing that, it'd be like
It'll be a shock. It'll be a shock. But after 8 weeks of doing that, cholesterol, blood sugar, fasting insulin, everything's going to improve.
Let's talk about testosterone. You did just mention it briefly, and I know you love talking about it.
Yeah.
And you talk about it more for male health.
Yeah.
But obviously a lot of
it's
our
an
audience.
epidemic. I call it the mandemic.
Mandemic.
It's a massive decline you've seen it as well in the male fertility. It does play a role, obviously, in contraception.
Even mood.
Mood, energy, they're irritable.
A lot of very unhappy men.
And a lot of unhappy CEOs, the ones that are making the most money, that are earning the big bucks, that are super stressed, running off 5 hours of sleep, running on 5 cups of coffee a day. They're usually the ones that have low testosterone because their job is so stressful. Then they're not sleeping well. Then they're relying upon sleeping tablets. They're taking stimulants. They're using like Ritalin, things like that to get through. And that can all tank testosterone. Not to mention the fact that vaping as well is so common, particularly amongst like 20, 30-year-olds. They think it's cool to vape, and really
it's just a disaster, isn't it?
So bad.
I've said that to my children. I'm like, please just promise me that's one thing that we just, please don't.
It's just not cool. Well, there's obviously a range of different factors. You've got the xenoestrogens, the microplastics, obviously that's infiltrating our environment, affecting fertility. You've got people smothering their bodies in sunscreen. That's like toxic sunscreen that lowers testosterone because it literally makes its way to the testes. You've got lack of sunlight exposure, artificial light. You've got like sedentary behavior. So everyone's just sitting at a desk. They're not moving. They're sitting on an EMF laptop, which is basically cooking their testes, which anytime the testes get a little bit too warm, 2 degrees too warm, it stops spermatogenesis, which is why I've basically popularized. Have you heard me talk about icing the testes?
I tell my patients to do this too.
Oh, do you? Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. Thank you for doing that. Yeah.
Especially people are sitting down all day, truck drivers. Yeah. We've seen like remarkable response with one standout patient, truck driver. I'm like, you need to cool them down. It
really works. If you go on YouTube and you type in icing testicles testosterone, my video's got over 100,000 views, and they've got thousands of guys commenting their blood test results before and after icing, and it literally increases testosterone.
Amazing.
So I recommend that to all guys because it's a free hack. It costs you nothing. Just make sure that you don't get pulled over by the cops for
Well, I don't think they're really going to
Sitting
tell you
on
what
an
are you
ice
doing there. I'm sitting on ice.
I'm addicted to ice.
Not that kind.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's, well, obviously the sedentary nature of a lot of people's lives are a massive contributing factor.
Huge.
But then there's other things like sunlight, like you mentioned.
Yeah. But then also you got the polyester underwear as well. And guys don't know this, but wearing polyester, what happens is, and the analogy I like to look at is when you wear polyester like t-shirt, for example, and you take it off, you get the sparks that go off. That same thing happens when you're wearing polyester underwear up against the testes. So you're getting micro little zaps.
Getting shocked the whole time.
Yeah, you're just making yourself infertile. And it can actually lead to severe infertility just by wearing polyester underwear.
How much of a factor do you feel that fertility is the male part plays in?
Yeah, I think I would say it's up there pretty high.
I say it's more.
More than 50. I'm happy to say more, but I thought you were going to say that.
No, I think it's more.
Yeah, 60, 70%.
I really do.
Yeah.
And even if I'm looking at miscarriage in women, anyone that's miscarrying before 9 weeks, I will always look at the male first.
Wow. Yeah. That's
I think it's a big thing that's it's always not looked at. I mean, if an embryo up until that point, the placenta forms at, around 9 weeks, then the embryo is doing the heavy lifting up until then.
right. Do you think it's like a sperm motility, sperm count, or is it just the quality of the
I
sperm
think it's
itself?
the quality. Yeah.
It's the lack of antioxidants.
It's all those things, but I think in my time, I've been doing women's health mainly, but fertility was really how we made our mark, and it wasn't by choice. I didn't want to treat fertility, it just happened. But I have been doing this long enough to see the decline. It was only still 4 to 5% morphology when I first sort of started in the industry, and now to see normal be considered 1 to 2% just in that short amount of time. Very rarely will I see a test result where the morphology is more than 10%, maybe twice a year. I don't think anyone's going to have 100% perfect sperm. That's not the way it works. Do you have 100%?
I hope so. I really hope so.
You're not supposed to. We're not supposed to, but we're supposed to have far better numbers than we see. And now we're accepting these as normal, which is heartbreaking because it's not normal. It's just the average.
The average. They do the same with testosterone. The reference range. They've actually reduced the reference range. Most guys that I see are typically around 400, 500, and they're in their, mid-20s or like maybe early 30s. That's when you should be crushing it in life. Like you want to be having high testosterone at that age because number one, you're trying to find a mate, obviously. Number two, trying to probably build a business. Testosterone is going to help to fuel motivation, drive. That it helps with mood. It helps with resilience. And what Dr. Andrew Huberman emphasizes is that testosterone makes effort feel good. That's awesome. Like imagine this, you've got the more testosterone you have, the more inclined you are to actually do the work.
You're motivated.
Motivated. Like how can a guy with low testosterone be motivated to wake up, work 9 hours a day, come back, go to the gym, then look after the family? It's hard. It would be hard for guys.
I think there's a lot more to be said about that actually. When we're looking at mental health of men, we're talking about it more than ever before, which I think is a great thing. But why are we having to talk about it more than ever before? Is it because there's more of an incidence that men are silently suffering?
Yeah.
I think so, based on what you're talking about.
Exactly, yeah. The sad part is, this is what I hear a lot, is these guys will go to their doctors, their doctors will say, your result's normal, even if it's like 280 or whatever. Nah.
Heartbreaking. Also the reason that also happens is that the path lab determine the reference ranges. So not even –
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? Like the pathology lab get to decide based on the numbers that they're seeing.
That they see. And most people are so unhealthy.
And not only that, the path lab decide if your GP is sending you for a test, not one if we were to order an independent test. That's one of the reasons why we want to order independent tests, because we get what we ask for. But the pathology lab will decide what's tested based on primary testing.
Yeah,
so if your primary testing looks fine, then they won't look at anything
like
further. But you and I know that if you need the sum of all things to make these decisions.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a lot of people being told that they're fine when they're not fine. It's not being interpreted correctly. It's a lot to be able to interpret. It's not just reading a report.
Oh, yeah. There's also, the other night I had a consult with a patient. He had high cholesterol, but no one ever explained to him that his thyroid was linked to high cholesterol, and he had basically hypothyroidism. His TSH was fine, but his T3 was terrible. It was like 3.8. It was very low. And I'm like, you are nowhere near where you want to be. Thyroid used to get prescribed back in the 1960s or 1970s to lower cholesterol. Now they've got cholesterol lowering, you know the story, the patenting and all that sort of stuff. Here's some tips for people listening to this. I think icing 10 to 15 minutes 2 to 3 times a day for men, obviously up against the underwear. Wearing wool or bamboo underwear is going to be important. Eating healthy fats, you've spoken about this many times, avocados, coconut oil, extra wild olive, extra virgin olive oil.
Evan will be very happy for that little mention there.
Yep. And then also like eggs, red meat.
All the things we're told we're not supposed to be having.
Exactly. Good quality dairy, Greek yogurt, raw milk.
Close to nature as possible.
Yeah. And I think guys need to stop worrying about some guys get like concerned about carbohydrates, and I just tell them, if you're going to have carbs, eat your fruit, like your berries, right? Your berries are full of polyphenols, antioxidants, protects your sperm, protects your testosterone production, helps with cortisol management. I think they're also really important. And then, of course, I love my good sourdough bread. I can't say no to that.
Yum. I think it's interesting also because a lot of women will be low in testosterone too. Do you have any suggestions for them?
Yeah. So from a few of the clients that I've worked with, we found that some of the herbs that are prescribed for men to boost testosterone actually have a similar effect in women. So tonka ali, or it's otherwise known as Eurycoma longifolia, that's the Latin name, that can do a pretty good job at increasing or modulating DHEA and supporting testosterone production. And in women, that can lead to an improvement in their libido, their sexual functioning, because you understand that testosterone is important for their sexual desire and that sort of stuff.
And for their hormones too.
Yeah, and also for like bone mineral density, cognition. There's definitely some importance, needs to be placed on testosterone in that regard.
Yeah, I know. We do definitely think about it for men and not for women. And you just want it to be just right for women as well. You're not supposed to have loads of it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. In a PCOS sort of androgenic state is not ideal.
I'm going to switch lanes real quick here. Methylene blue. Let's talk about it.
Wow. Yeah, methylene blue is super popular at the moment. It's
certainly
popping up because RFK, you saw on the aeroplane.
I know that I was at a conference maybe about 4 years ago, and I walked into the toilet that we were sharing with a group of us working together. I'm like, why is the toilet blue?
No way, somebody.
Well, and everyone was then laughing, going, oh, you know what? Everyone's toilets are stained blue because they were all taking it.
Yeah, so methylene blue is extremely popular for its ability to improve mitochondrial function. Like it's all the craze is about, okay, methylene blue is going to increase energy, ATP, it's going to help with brain function. To be fair, if you go on PubMed, you type in methylene blue brain function, hundreds of incredibly good studies. Like it does have a lot of science behind it. Why? Because methylene blue is the very first synthetic drug ever developed. It was in 1876. It was like the first drug we studied for malaria, right? Or for blood disorders. Now, where I think people go wrong is they're overdosing with methylene blue. If they don't have malaria, obviously, and they're wanting to use it as a nootropic or as an energy booster like creatine or like coenzyme Q10, I think they all work similarly without any potential risk. Methylene blue, I think most people should be using less than 2 milligrams. You see a lot of companies selling like 10, 20, 30 milligrams. I think at that dosage, it's too much for the body, and you can run the risk of serotonin syndrome if you're combining methylene blue with some very powerful serotonin boosting drugs, SSRIs, 5-HTP, tryptophan. There's a risk for serotonin syndrome. And then in addition to that, I think not many people know this, but methylene blue can actually lower nitric oxide production in high dosages. So that's not really something most people, want to do.
Where would you take it as opposed to CoQ10 or? What was the other one that you said? CoQ10 and something else?
And creatine.
Oh, creatine, yeah.
Let's look at this. So if the goal is to improve mitochondrial function, creatine's extremely safe. 5 to 20 grams a day is pretty safe for most individuals if they don't have kidney issues. Coenzyme Q10 can also act as an ATP boosting agent. It's incredibly important for mitochondrial function, helping to convert food into energy. Methylene blue, I would say, is more psychoactive. It does penetrate the blood-brain barrier, and it does have some pretty strong effects on reducing like plaque buildup, a tau protein buildup in the brain as well. So I think if we're looking at mitochondrial function, stick towards like your creatine monohydrates, the coenzyme Q10, D-ribose, PQQ, and then maybe look at methylene blue.
All right, finally, if you could just create one supplement and it doesn't exist yet, what would it be and who would it help?
Okay, well, I'm going to share something that I haven't shared publicly.
Oh, we're going to get the early mail.
So I'm not bothered if any other supplement formulators listen to this podcast. But anyway, I'm going to say it right.
You're putting it out there first.
I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah.
My goal within the next 2 years is to release a supplement that can help the body to detox microplastics.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, so needed.
Needed, I think so. And I think consumers are more aware about the dangers of microplastics and xenoestrogens. The tricky part is I don't know of any very good ingredients that can do that are very selective, that are that powerful to penetrate cells to actually pull it out of the system. I know there's like things like, zeolite. There's certain probiotics that can degrade xenoestrogens. But my goal is to like release a product that's specifically designed to pull out microplastics from the body.
How good.
Yeah.
That's so exciting and so needed. Thank you so much for sitting
Thanks,
with
Nat.
me today. I would love to actually keep chatting with you. Maybe we need to get you back.
Thank you.
At
Thanks
some point in
for having me on.
time. But yeah, so good. Keep doing such amazing work.
Awesome.
And thanks again.
Thank you.